Recently, I've had conversations with my friends about anxiety and fear, and just yesterday, I was experiencing something that I would consider myself to be anxiety and fear and worry, and just feeling disoriented from all of that, feeling detached from yourself, feeling um, just uncomfortable, like you're in an uncomfortable situation that you know rationally shouldn't make you uncomfortable, but you're just anxious and you're worried and you feel nervousness and fear and stress. And I was talking about it with one of my friends, and we talked about how my approach to it was feeling anxiousness and almost having a stoic perspective on it, where you can't control the emotions that you feel, and they just come at you at random. But the only thing that you can control is how you react to that emotion. So, as it is a normal thing for everyone to experience anxiety once in a while when certain scenarios arise, I suppose that the proper way to do it is to experience that emotion and have a sane reaction to it, react to it in a way that doesn't boggle you that much, that keeps you calm. Even still, rationally being aware, or being aware that rationally anxiety doesn't really matter, or that anxiety might just be excitement. Nervousness and excitement are almost the same emotions, and you're just experiencing it or viewing it differently. Even if you're rationally feeling anxiety, or you can rationally explain to yourself why you're being anxious or why you shouldn't be anxious, but you can still feel anxious after all that. And thinking about that really ties in everything that I've known about the heart versus mind, form versus formlessness um, thing that I've talked about before, how you can feel something as form, feelings come to you in formlessness, rather. You can feel something in formlessness, and you feel these feelings come to you wordless, and you attach your own explanations, feelings, words, and whatever to it. And that's you imposing form onto the feelings that are formless. And you feel anxiety coming to you in a formless sense from whatever source emotions come from the universe, whatever. And then you attach these names to it. You call it anxiety, fear, nervousness. And that's you imposing form onto that feeling. And even explaining it rationally, trying to just explain to yourself why you shouldn't feel this emotion, that's you imposing form onto it. But the only way that you can come into contact with the formlessness of it is by not explaining it, not naming the emotion, but just feeling it. So that's why this video is called Out Feeling Anxiety. And I don't know if that's something that I've done or that is possible. And the reason why I just woke up and decided to make this video, because I was just thinking about how yesterday I was feeling these anxious and nervous feelings, and it was all up in here. It was everywhere. And now that I wake up the next day when there's nothing to worry about, I feel so much more relief. It's almost like the anxiety was gone. And so what really happened wasn't that I outfelt the anxiety, that I felt it so much that it went away. It's that it literally just went away. Like objectively, the situation went away. Now, there are cases where an objective situation didn't go away, but I lost anxiety for it. And in that case, that's when I had the realization that I shouldn't be anxious for something. Because I feel like when there's something static that you're anxious about, where you're anxious about something that is in the past, or something that's currently happening, that should not bother you at all, then that's something that you can outfeel or out rationalize to yourself, depending on what kind of person you are. But I think in my case of yesterday, my anxiety was really just an in the moment thing. And rather than being attached to the past or attached to certain things that don't affect me, my anxiety is focused on the immediate things that are bound to happen within the day. I don't really know. I don't know if that's a sufficient explanation, or I don't know if I'm getting anywhere with this, but just from my experiences yesterday, I think that you can't really out explain an emotion that's so strong, because what I talked about with my friend was that this division between heart and mind, there are divided approaches to each one. if you out-rationalize something and you explain something in your head and you know it to be 100% true in your head, your heart can still feel in a different way, because rationalizing, explaining, using words and logic is something for the brain to do, but your heart doesn't really care about that stuff. Whereas, what could be an approach to guide the heart? Well, that could probably be something formless, because if we're using the analogy of form versus formlessness, we use words in which are form to explain things, but for something formless like formless emotions, we have to disregard naming it. Don't name the emotion. Don't call it anything. Don't even try to explain it, but just kind of feel it. So out rationalizing and out feeling something. I'm leaning toward out feeling something, especially if it's something that that doesn't really care about rationality, and it cares more about intuition. I made a video about this before, rationality versus intuition. It's an old video, but that's me kind of inching towards the idea of form versus formless. I've kind of already known that by then. But there are certain situations that I explained in that video, that there are certain situations where rationality just doesn't cut it, and it won't do you anything. And I think that's one of those things where you need to be able to identify when rationality is needed, or at least if you're always rationalizing, you'll need to have a radar for when it's not working. And on the contrary, if you're always feeling something, you're a very emotional person, you're a very sensitive person, you need to know when you're feeling something so much but it's not making any sense, and you need to actually use logic and rationality. I don't know a lot of people like that. That's a pretty interesting idea. But a lot of people that I know are overly rational, and because when you're overly rational, when you're too rational, you can kind of block yourself from being intuitive. And the split between rationality and intuition, you kind of want to be in the middle. I think maybe a little more rationality is fine, depending on your life circumstance, right? How emotionally sensitive you want to be. But maybe the thing with the heart and mind, it's really just rationality versus intuition. And I don't know how you can be intuitive about anxiety. You can only really be intuitive about the actions that you take. So perhaps it's something of feeling anxiety, and to soothe the heart, you need to be intuitive about how you react to that anxiety. Whether that means being avoidant or taking the task at hand, I don't know. I really don't know what I'm talking about here. But the idea of out feeling an emotion, especially a negative emotion, I've been there. I think I've been in a situation where I've out felt sadness, where you've cried all your tears and there's no tears left to cry, or when you've just wrung yourself dry and squeezed all the emotion out of you and you can't feel anything else. I've certainly had that, especially with negative emotions. I think only with negative emotions. Sadness and just loneliness as well. Loneliness is still a working thing. It's still a growing thing at the moment. But I think that only works with long-standing emotions like sadness and loneliness, something that I had for a long time. But the anxiety thing I couldn't outfeel, because it was brooding, it was already there, it was happening in the moment. So I think what matters more in that kind of situation is presence. I think presence is the most in-the-moment way for the heart. To be intuitive for the heart, whereas maybe being a rational thinker is the way to be in the moment for the mind, and being aware of your senses. But presence in general is just a way to be aware, both heart and mind. And I think presence is a very important thing. I don't know if I've talked about it enough, but yeah, I think I just wanted to use this video to kind of lay the words on the table and kind of look at what I'm feeling about this, because it's been an interesting thing to me, this whole topic of heart versus mind and feelings, negative feelings, whatever. And I don't, it's not that it's been bothering me, it's just, I felt it for real yesterday, and I actually experienced it. I had some serious things to do, nothing life-threatening, obviously, but you can kind of, especially if you're just lying around your room all the time and you have to show up to something serious, it kind of gets you. And I think that's just what I felt. But yeah, I think that's about it. I just wanted to talk. This is just another journal entry kind of video, but that's about it. I literally just woke up, and I might record another video today, but I'll see you then.